Afternoon, folks. And welcome to the dissertation defense of Tobin Anderson. Let me just quickly introduce Tobin. Tobin completed his undergraduate work at the University of Wisconsin-Madison in marketing, did his MBA in management and finance from University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. He's worked in several companies. I'm not going to read out all the companies here, but just to name a few: Bath and Body Works, Luxottica, Sally Beauty, THG Enterprises, and so on. So Tobin is currently the president of Tobin Anderson Consulting in Cincinnati, Ohio. His dissertation topic is Towards a Theory of Consumer Gratitude, Studies on the Dimensions, Antecedents, and Consequences of Consumer Gratitude. So without further ado, please welcome Tobin.
Okay, thank you, Balaji. Good afternoon, and welcome to all our distinguished guests today. As Balaji mentioned, we'll be talking about the theory of consumer gratitude and studying the dimensions, antecedents, and consequences. Our agenda today, I'll talk first through the introduction, then go through Essay 1, which is on the dimensions of consumer gratitude, and then we'll talk through Essay 2, the antecedents and consequences in a nomenological network. For each essay, I'll talk through the motivation, the literature, dimensions, hypotheses, methods, and then go into discussion and implications. There'll be slightly more talk on Essay 2. There'll also be a little more talk about the results and implications as we went through the foundation in the proposal. So why consumer gratitude? You have transformed my child. I will never be able to thank you and Disney enough. Christopher Goh, a consumer of Disney, wrote a letter to Disney CEO Robert Iger because he was so impressed with the summer program about girls who code, where his daughter transformed from somebody shy to somebody confident. Gratitude is powerful. It is the second most experienced positive emotion, according to Fredrickson. Joy is the first. It has well-being, social connection, and personal growth. Superior customer experience is a differentiator, according to Weibull. So things such as loyalty, trust, personal growth are part of what we see with gratitude. And as a differentiator, it definitely deserves further inquiry because a primary objective of marketing department is differentiation. First essay on the dimensions. So our motivation. Behavioral aspects of gratitude can help optimize returns. So these aspects are things like emotions, intentions, and relationships. It has been primarily studied as a one- or two-dimensional construct. Therefore, a lot of foundational meaning is missing. The multidimensional gratitude construct tested in a nomological network can help academics and practitioners. For academics, they can find more about antecedents and consequences, and for practitioners, they can better connect with consumers and have more sustainable results. 4 primary gaps. First, there's no standard definition of consumer gratitude that's consistently employed. It varies. Also some people talk about gratitude, some customer gratitude, and some talk about consumer gratitude. Second, the dimensions don't capture the nuances of consumer gratitude. It's not comprehensive enough on each individual dimension. So we must vet to get the construct importance and practicality. Third, the benefactor intent may be positioned as a main effect and a moderator. It may be misplaced as a cognitive factor. I propose it as a main effect, so it's more of a driver, and also as a moderator because it talks about scale and intensity. And fourth, dimensions should better represent a consumer's connection with the business. Connections as a recipient, but also as a driver. Main question is, what are the dimensions of consumer gratitude? In our literature review on gratitude, thankfulness is the beginning of gratitude. Gratitude is the completion of thankfulness. Thankfulness may consist merely of words. Gratitude is shown in acts. Gratitude engenders action. Over time, at the beginning, really, definitions predominantly focused on thankfulness and appreciation. The preeminent researcher, McCullough, actually evolved here. In 2002, he talked mostly about appreciation, but he evolved and thought that gratitude also had an action component of reciprocation. Consumer gratitude and customer gratitude are generally gratitude definitions in different contexts. So gratitude has just been applied to different contexts in the business setting. Per McAdams and Bauer, people can feel grateful toward groups, organizations, systems, or ideals. This means that people can also be grateful towards businesses and individuals. It can be macro along with micro. And per Dewani and Sinha, indebtedness is a less sustainable version of reciprocity. Indebtedness feels like obligation. If somebody is indebted as opposed to grateful, they may terminate a relationship or they may resist free benefits from a company. Quick theoretical recap that we use for the dimensions. First, the find, remind, and bind theory on positive emotions. This is where we identify exchange partners. Those partners exchange coordinated responses, which reminds them of each other, and over time, they're bound together. The affect theory of social exchange on connection, we talk about customer-seller reactions inducing gratitude, and then time and effort will build that as well. The reciprocal action theory on reciprocity talks about exchange partners investing in relationships. And because of that investment, they expect reciprocation either from an economic standpoint or a relationship standpoint. And finally, the theory of reciprocal altruism says that gratitude regulates the human response to altruistic acts. So a person would weigh the cost ratio of those acts. And this would motivate pro-social behavior, pay it forward. So our revised definition, a consumer's appreciative feeling from a company's action to consumers and stakeholders that strengthens their positive emotional state and personal connection to the company and motivates them to desire reciprocal or pay it forward responses. Our research model, consumer gratitude is a second order factor. The first order are positive emotional state, appreciation, personal connection, desire to reciprocate, and desire to share good fortune. Dimensions in detail. Positive emotional state is a positive affective feeling a consumer feels inside themselves as a result of an outward gesture from a company to the consumer or other stakeholders. It's an emotion with attribution. You're grateful to someone for something, poor McCullough. This is from the attribute theory of social exchange. And per Roberts, gratitude is positive when a recipient of a gesture will align with an altruistic stakeholder. Second dimension, appreciation, is a consumer's feeling of thankfulness and appreciation as a result of an outward gesture from a company to a consumer or stakeholders, per Fitzgerald. So gratitude brings warm appreciation and goodwill towards benefactors. Consumer awareness of the investments can elicit gratitude, and these investments would include time, resources, and effort. Third dimension is personal connection, a positive personal relationship with a company through mutually aligned perspectives and mutually beneficial exchanges, supported by the find, remind, and bind theory. Gratitude for benefits received improves attachment to a benefactor. So this improves a recipient's impressions of the benefactor, and then it will engender an emotional attachment. Fourth dimension is desire to reciprocate, which is a consumer's inclination to reciprocate in an ongoing manner directly to a company or in another directed manner that benefits the company based on the emotional appreciation of the benefits received. This is supported by the reciprocal action theory. So sincere company efforts motivate reciprocity according to Fazeli Hassan. Sincerity motivates reciprocity in kind. So action based on gratitude contrasts with obligation and indebtedness. So obligation and indebtedness doesn't align congruent motives and aligned values. Gratitude is a fundamental relationship builder. Desire to share good fortune is a personal want to share information, benefits, motivations, or perspectives with others based on the consumer's evaluation of the company's gesture to themselves and stakeholders, according to Bartlett and DeSteno. The theory of reciprocal altruism supports this. Grateful people exert more effort to help strangers. It's not just for benefactors. And pro-social actions are a form of upstream reciprocity. I would call that a pay-it-forward mode of living. Research methods. First of all, sample design. We did G-power analysis. We needed a sample of 138. So we should have no issue with statistical power because precision builds up to 200 per Fowler in 2014. We are using 271 consumers. We're doing a random sample of adult general merchandise consumers of direct-to-consumer retailers. These are people who buy consistently over a month with brands. We asked them to name 5 brands they shop, and then we picked the most recent, had them pick the most recent one. In the questions, we made sure that we threw out answers that were of short duration, straight lining, missing things, and gibberish. We did this with cloud research. They used broad data sources, and it was approximately a $5 incentive. The research design and methods of data collection, we did a single-stage survey, consent, measurement, demographics, confirmatory factor analysis, SEM path analysis, reliability, pace, convergent, and discriminant validity, measurement, and structural models. For dimensionality, our scales uniquely measured corresponding dimensions, and the interrelated measurements of those dimensions encompass and quantified the second-order consumer gratitude factor. Item development, we used existing scales where they existed. Where they did not, we evaluated literature and used 3 academic experts and 5 senior marketing executives to help there to check face validity, content validity, relevance, and construct clarity. Common method bias, 1 point in time, 1 survey tool, single method, and we use market variables. Control variables, age, gender, income, and we also looked at shopping frequency and types of shopping channel behaviors. So, how about the analysis results? We used Smart PLS. Our goal here was to confirm the measurement model and then the weights of the measures. Our dimension outer loadings, which have the absolute contribution of a scale item to a respective construct, our scores were 0.816 with a benchmark of 0.7. Our convergent validity and reliability, we had Cronbach's and composite reliability. We had 0.917 over a benchmark of 0.7, and our average variance extracted were 0.8 with a benchmark of 0.5. So very strong scores there. And discriminant validity, our square roots of each of the 5 AVEs did exceed the correlation of all other constructs. So solid results. What we have here then is the dimension weights. All the 5 weights are very similar, so these are also very solid results. The weights are between 0.214 and 0.225 for all 5 dimensions. The T statistics exceeded 30, so well above the 1.96 criterion for convergent validity, and all p-values less than 0.001. Again, strong findings. So, principal findings, there's 3 of them. Number 1, consumer gratitude is firmly established as a multidimensional construct. Again, with those very similar good scores here, it covers necessary nuances of unique consumer gratitude construct contributions. There's a meaningful balance here between thoroughness and parsimony. In other words, you don't want 1,000,000 dimensions, but you don't want too few. You want things that are explanatory pieces with meaningful differences, and our results show that we have that. 5 dimensions provide a clear foundation for future application. So distinct dimensions add richness and greater insight. The emotional aspects represent 3 distinctive features. Positive emotion shows that strengthens the overall outlook in broader alternatives. Connection shows form and maintain relationships. So this study has gone beyond what in the past was just appreciation. It has 3 emotional dimensions here. Third, reciprocity is visibly highlighted as both a direct and indirect desire to act. We cover more territory. Overt recognition is necessary for indirect desires. It really hasn't been focused on before. It's almost been sort of a forgotten sibling. Indirect was rarely discussed, but still very important. Our limitations, 3 main ones. Demographics skewed slightly off general population, age a little higher, income a little lower, and gender skewed slightly male at 53%. Our cloud research does not allow tracking of response rate, and cognition as a dimension may need further study. Again, my point of view is it's more of a main effect, and as a moderator, it can be argued that you can see it also a bit as a dimension, and so we should see that as well. Research implications, 3 primary implications. Number 1, consistency of usage. Usually a gratitude or adjusted gratitude to consumer gratitude construct is what is used here. Consumer gratitude may be a different standard than gratitude because people may view businesses in a different light. So context is different for connection and caring in a business. Second, it's a richer, more comprehensive construct. Uni and bi dimensions can miss important aspects. We've gone from 1 to 2 dimensions. So multi-dimensions can enhance scope, richness, precision, and power. And as it grows in importance, it invites precision and scrutiny. Third, the opportunity to expand construct usage in other contexts. Context is key here. Business to business, business to consumer, inter-organization can be added on to our study of consumer to business. And then we can look at kind of a web of gratitude to see kind of the interplay and build of gratitude over time. From a practitioner standpoint, there's 2 primary implications. 1, tracking brand health. Keller in 2020 noted that major brands do track brand health in things such as satisfaction, commitment, love. Gratitude could be, consumer gratitude could be a worthy addition to a company's brand tracker. For instance, used in a monthly balanced scorecard, that could be an ideal place. Second implication is enhancing the type and targeting of performance initiatives. Now, there are 5 clear targets with the 5 dimensions for initiative planning. What that means is we have got the opportunity to broaden our toolbox and build the bottom line in the brand. And we'll get more of that in paper 2. Speaking of that, essay 2, where we'll talk about the antecedents and consequences in the nomological network. Our motivation. Building on differentiation, we talked about being very important. So acquiring a new online customer can increase costs by about 30%. So really getting differentiation can help lower that cost. And then once acquired, if they're a satisfied customer, that's great. But you really want highly satisfied customers because they spend 3.4 times more over a lifetime. Keeping them happy and loyal is paramount. E-commerce transparent comparative information increases pressure to differentiate per Silva in 2016. So if you have weak value and weak positional advantages, you're vulnerable, particularly in this environment with low switching costs. Subsequently, the power of consumer gratitude can be an important element of success. 3 primary research gaps. First, extant studies have failed to consider the multidimensional nature of consumer gratitude while modeling their nomological network. This leads to sub-optimized definitions, narrow insights. 2, no studies directly address the effect of consumer gratitude on the action of a company towards its stakeholders. Several studies will study the action towards the consumer, but few towards a stakeholder. And then extant studies fall short of including both the direct and indirect antecedents and consequences of consumer gratitude. It's incomplete. It limits our understanding of the consumer gratitude phenomenon. Our research questions: what are the influences of the company initiatives on consumer gratitude? What are the moderating influence of consumer perspectives on the relationship of company initiatives to consumer gratitude? Finally, what are the influences of consumer gratitude on company performance outcomes. A literature review on antecedents. First, there's a limited focus on end consumers versus intermediate customers. So a lot of the studies have been done on sales organizations, on middlemen. End consumers can be different. Structural and social investments can engender gratitude. What they do is they can motivate customer engagement and relationships. Per Dewani, functional investments create an obligation. So an obligation can be created when people are responding to offers or things that are more transactional in nature. Standard customer attention does not induce gratitude. So this is kind of equalized treatment. Customized preferred treatment elicits gratitude. Intelligent frequency of interactions can help, and it's been shown from Drazkowski that weekly interactions between customers and service providers can increase that interpersonal growth of gratitude. And finally, ESCR, which is the economic, social, and cultural rights, have a positive influence on a customer's felt gratitude. Customers care. Our moderators. Most studies miss customer impressions of general company factors according to Paul Matier, usually direct actions towards consumers. Many people attempt to increase their dispositional gratitude through induction. So gratitude becomes an important aspect of many people's lives, as I think many of us have seen. People are doing weekly benefit listings, physical exercise, gratitude exercise. They're counting their blessings. Perceived responsiveness is an even likelier indicator of gratitude than effort, cost, or surprise. So these perceived responsiveness is things like thoughtfulness and liking. Performance factors. Two types of reciprocity, direct and indirect. Direct, towards a benefactor, indirect, towards others. Loyalty and purchase intentions mediated by customer gratitude can be an outcome of relationships. Now, this was an Intercept study of Indian consumers. Is the same thing hold here in the US with our consumers as well? Feelings of gratitude have been shown to have a positive relationship with cooperation and helping other brands' consumers, according to Xi. So this is emerging evidence of brand advocacy. And fourth, gratitude can decrease people's inward focus and shift it outwards. Inward focus would be things such as pride and selfishness. The outward focus would be concern of other individuals and groups. Quick theoretical recap. For preferential treatment, the expectation confirmation theory says disconfirmation is when things do not meet expectations. Confirmation happens when things exceed expectations. This happens with preferential treatment. Social cognitive theory says learning occurs in a social context. So the dynamic and triadic reciprocal interaction happens here, and that's between person, behavior, and environment. The broaden and build theory on grateful disposition says that grateful people broaden emotions, meaning if you're grateful, you'll also be more apt to have joy, happiness, other emotions. And when you have these positive emotions, you will access more behavioral choices and more tools. Social identity theory states that people classify into social categories, whether it be race, gender, political viewpoints, social clubs, etc. So there is value alignment. A research model on the Consumer Gratitude Network. We have 4 main effects: social investments, preferred structural investments, the stakeholder initiatives, and assessment of company gestures. 2 moderators. We repeated the assessment of company gestures and a predisposition to gratitude. These go into our mediator, which is consumer gratitude, and then 4 consequences: 2 direct, consumer loyalty and purchase intentions; 2 indirect, positive word of mouth and support for company causes. Our hypotheses. Antecedents: social investments, investments provided with the intent to create personal ties. So this is supported by the affect theory of social exchange and social cognitive theory. Relationship quality creates enduring relationships according to DeWolf. So predictable growing relationships ensures business viability and sustainability. Hypothesis 1, social RM investments to consumers will have a positive impact on consumer gratitude. Second, preferred structural relationship management investments, personalized and customized services to the customer, designed to give the benefactor preferential standing to strengthen the relationship connection. Supported by the expectation confirmation theory. Prioritized customers are more likely to repay suppliers according to Goldner. So this talks more about the norm of reciprocity or tit for tat. Third, indirect stakeholder initiatives are actions taken by a company to positively support and influence their broad spectrum of interested constituents, supported by the social identity theory. So this identifies broad stakeholder concerns that should enhance long-term performance. These are stakeholders such as customers, employees, communities, and government. Hypothesis 3 is indirect stakeholder initiatives will have a positive impact on consumer gratitude. So, assessment of company gestures, which is a consumer's favorable comparative evaluation of a company's offering, plus their look at the associated characteristics and intent towards consumers and stakeholders, I have down as a main effect and as a moderator. A main effect because it looks at an overall company impression based on observations, experience, and assumptions. As a moderator, it's really where you evaluate actions on their own merit. So hypothesis 4 is gesture assessment will have a positive impact on consumer gratitude. And 5 is that assessment of a company gesture will positively moderate the company initiatives that we talked about before here. This is supported by social identity theory, social cognitive theory, and attribution theory. Consumer disposition is our second moderator, the tendency or proneness to experience gratitude, supported by social cognitive theory and broaden and build theory. Trait gratitude here is most enduring, and you can think of trait gratitude as a personality trait, and it's more enduring than something that's more of a state gratitude, which is something for momentary situations. So in this hypothesis, the predisposition to gratitude will positively moderate our 4 company initiatives, as well as the assessment of gestures. Performance outcomes, 4 of them. First one, consumer loyalty, degree a consumer consistently purchases the same product and services from a provider. What we say here is if we move a consumer's emotions, we can engender loyalty. In the online world, perceived relationship investment will positively influence customer loyalty. So our hypothesis 7 is consumer gratitude will be mediating between company initiatives and the company gestures in consumer loyalty. Purchase intention, decision plan to buy a particular product or service. This is an obvious way to reciprocate. Patronize. So hypothesis 8 is that purchase intention or consumer gratitude will mediate between the initiatives and purchase intentions and, consumer gratitude. Positive word of mouth, information a customer provides to others concerning the consumption of a product or service. People really find this a genuine avenue as well. Consumers may spread word of mouth to help others to better experiences. So the gratitude has the proclivity to function as an incidental emotion. So hypothesis 9 has consumer gratitude mediating between the initiatives and positive word of mouth. Finally, support of company causes, the consumer intent to join, to donate money, or actively participate in company-sanctioned indirect stakeholder investments. Here, gratitude can decrease people's inward focus. So gratitude is going to shift now outwardly towards individual and groups. So hypothesis 10 says consumer gratitude will mediate the relationship between the initiatives and support of company causes. There's not a lot of studies here, but it certainly follows the logic, and obviously we are supporting that. Research methods, so the same samples used for SA2 as SA1, so much of the method holds the same. The difference here is in our design and methods, The 10 measured constructs are going to be modeled as a network. So this is going to provide complete evidence of measurement efficacy, and it will also reduce the confounds that may emerge from excessive error measurements in the SEM. These here, again, are the same. So our analysis and results. For Smart PLS, we did a two-part calculation, utilized to examine factor relationships. First part is the PLS algorithm statistical modeling, and that's to determine the measurement model characteristics. And the second is to employ the bootstrapping to test the structural model. Our dimension outer loadings, here are 36 scale items, all greater than 0.763, better than the benchmark of 0.7. Our convergent validity and reliability, again, Cronbach's and composite reliability, greater than 0.863, being the benchmark of 0.7, and the AVEs, 0.708, being the benchmark of 0.5. Finally, discriminant validity, we had that for each of the 9 AVEs as they exceeded the correlations of all other constructs. So, solid results again. When we look at the model here, what we find is we supported 3 out of the 4 main effects, 0 of the 2 moderators, and 4 out of 4 of the dependent variables. Significance with gesture assessment, preferred investment, indirect initiatives, gesture assessment at 0.595, preferred investment at 0.18, and indirect at 0.14. All of the consequences, significance, loyalty, intentions, and support causes, all betas over 0.7, purchase intention over 0.5. So very solid results. Not significant, the main effect of social investment, and as well, both of the moderators of gesture assessment and gratitude predisposition. R-square scores are high, so we did a good job of explaining total variance from purchase intentions of 0.325 to consumer gratitude of 0.716. Had some pretty solid scores here. So, principal findings. 4 principal findings here. First, it's the most modern, robust consumer gratitude model to date. It includes 5 dimensions of a consumer gratitude construct. There's 3 categories of antecedents, so this is the first study with that. There's a consumer evaluation with gesture assessment, direct company initiative with preferred investments, indirect company initiative with the stakeholder initiatives. The gesture assessment at 0.595 shows that genuineness for a company is paramount, and the consequences are substantial here, all over 0.5 and most over 0.7. So there's some real power behind what the study has shown. It's the first study with both indirect antecedents and consequences. Direct is interesting, but perhaps not surprising. The indirect, as we think about it, businesses can influence and further expand their reach with the indirect. So the indirect is kind of advancing a lot of the knowledge here. Consumers care about how a company affects its stakeholders. As we see, they care a lot. Social investment findings are counter to prior studies. Okay. Sometimes the counter findings are the most interesting. So why did this occur? Well, we have a broader sample than what's been done in the past. It's not just doing students and such. It's really going out there, and I think our methodology really helped here. And it's also, I think, keeping in touch is easier now in the digital age and social media and such. So it's what was once novel, being talked to by a company on a frequent basis, may just be more normal today. And finally, the high standard for main effects to stand on their own merits. So there's probably more cynicism of business than individuals. So predisposition of gratitude may apply to individuals, but maybe not so much to business. So actions need to stand on their own merits. Limitations, 4 primary limitations. A more robust sample would help provide deeper learnings. Would like to dig into shopping frequency, type of retailer, and some of the demographics. We need some bigger samples to really get the learning there. Age, gender, income skewed slightly from general population, as we noted, and the response rate is not tracked by cloud research. Finally, if we can get actual business result and profit metrics through these studies, it's even better than intentions. So I'd love to get to that point. So the research implications. This is some of the most exciting results and learnings from the study. And there's 4 main implications here. The first one is the multidimensional consumer gratitude construct can be used as a standardized representation in future studies. This construct is comprehensive and explanatory. It's something that people will want to use consistently. Number 2, the multidimensional consumer gratitude construct can be used in business studies as an alternative to measuring customer satisfaction as a measurement tool, and also for measuring consumer well-being. Customer satisfaction is a widely used construct. It is a highly desired objective of a company. Peterson and Wilson in '92 and Szymanski and Hennard in '21 challenged this, the reliability and validity of customer satisfaction. Consumer gratitude potentially could be an excellent complement to satisfaction, or, as I would contend, even a better alternative. Customer satisfaction in surveys has very high positive scores and a negative skew. Customer gratitude has a moderate positive score, negligible negative skew, and trace kurtosis. So when you're talking about consumer gratitude, you're talking about a normal distribution, and you're talking about distinct answers where you can see differences and get learning. You may not see that with customer satisfaction. Customer satisfaction is predisposed. Consumer gratitude is not predisposed. So you can trust the results a little bit more from each study. And customer satisfaction is unidimensional, and consumer gratitude is multidimensional. So we can get richer, more nuanced learnings. Additionally, Parasornum in '88 did a classic service quality study where he took a single-dimensional service quality and found 5 dimensions with that in a 22-item scale. Tangibility, reliability, responsiveness, assuranceness, empathy. Consumer gratitude is similar here of what we found here from a singular by to 5 dimensions. And there are 47,000 sites now on this service quality for Parasornum. So some potential here for sure. We also think consumer gratitude could be a measurement tool for consumer well-being. Consumer well-being is a meta-level concept where higher consumer well-being equals a higher quality of life. So this is, Sergey has been doing this for a while. And there are public measures out there such as cost of living index, consumer complaints, and academic measures such as shopper satisfaction, possession satisfaction, and community. Sergey believes that there's some opportunity for some new measures to increase understanding, and he has 2 key criteria here. The first one is beneficence to consumer well-being, and the second one is malfeasance to represent preservation of other stakeholders. Consumer gratitude may be an ideal solution to have a measurement here. It covers both angles. For beneficence, there's 3 emotional dimensions here. For the malfeasance to other stakeholders, this is stakeholder friendly, as we've seen within the study. So some really exciting things can happen. Third research implication, the nomological network provides 2 antecedents of consumer gratitude, indirect stakeholder initiatives, and support causes. So 2 new ones as well. The results directed outside clearly have meaningful consumer impact, and they drive performance measures. Academics can use indirect measures as well. They could look at consumer commitment, consumer trust, consumer collaboration, and consumer forgiveness. And fourth, the nomological network provides the foundation for exploring new antecedents and consequences of consumer gratitude. So the nuance of consumer gratitude points to the likelihood of academics discovering new antecedents and consequences. So antecedents that could be looked at are disconfirmation of expectation, empathy, loyalty programs, equity. Consequences could include trust, consumer commitment, company-directed word of mouth, and cynicism. As an important follow-up, I believe academics can take a fresh look at studies that may have changed over time, much like social investment did. So taking a fresh look at constructs, where impact may have changed due to the digital age or new generations, I think is worthy of a look. Future studies. Studying across time periods to determine if it is a temporal construal is something I would be very interested in. Customer satisfaction has a clear time construal, as Rizzi found out in 2015. In a near past event, how and feasibility was very important to consumers, so things that are more transactional. When you get further away from that transaction in distant past, why and desirabilities, higher order things became more important. What's interesting with consumer gratitude are things like the emotion, the appreciation, connectedness have a longevity component. And as Fredrickson noted in 2009, consumer gratitude can be a sustainable state. So again, versus customer satisfaction, consumer gratitude is something that can have more reliable findings over time. You can feel more confident in it. Second, we can study across different contexts to aid academic learning. So different demographics, age, gender, incomes. We can also look at different consumer clusters, such as Leong's, where we had market mavens, hobby shoppers, survival shoppers, treasure hunters, social shoppers, and non-shoppers. We could look at gratitude across these different clusters. And finally, looking across different types of stores and brands. So different channels, mass, class, luxury, specialty, or different positioning, say environmental like REI, or creative intuitive like Apple, or something that's more genuine and transparent like Dove. Practitioner implications, three main ones. First one is to provide a new brand tracking tool to gauge brand health and performance. So again, if we go back to Paris Sanum, 22 question service quality with 47,000 sites, we can do a similar thing with consumer gratitude here with the 5 dimensions. And with a 0.917 Cronbach's alpha, we may be able to go on to 12 or 13 questions and maintain our reliability and insights. Second, we can provide guidance on the best initiatives to drive consumer gratitude and the need to dig deeper to understand consumer preference for communication methods. So the study makes clear how consumers are treated is important. They need genuineness, they need extra effort. Communication itself is not enough. Preferred treatment is paramount. So for these first 2 points, I'd like to use a quick Starbucks example. Starbucks field manager may have 100 stores. On a quarterly basis, they could take 50 random customers per store and measure with our consumer gratitude survey and have a consumer gratitude index. With that index, they can compare and contrast the stores, learn the details of what worked for the ones that performed high. They can motivate, coach, and evaluate. Annually, they could do the complete consumer gratitude survey, and then they get more precision. They'd find out exactly what type of antecedents and the specifics that drove business or didn't drive business. And then they can establish annual plans. Now, there are 16,000 Starbucks in the US and there's 35,000 Starbucks worldwide. Using a measurement like this to see what works and drives something that's meaningful, something we know has performance track records, is pretty exciting. Third, we provide guidance on understanding the influence of consumer participation in support causes, along with the importance of other consequences of consumer gratitude. So this is critically important. We know here that stakeholder and community treatment drives metrics. They drive bottom line. Some quick post hoc analysis. We looked at second order antecedents, so we took things like the social investment, all the antecedents, company initiatives together, and consumer perspectives together. That became significant. So as more elements come into play, as more study goes on here, this may make sense to have second order antecedents. It may be more attainable. Second, gesture assessment, gratitude predisposition. We looked at it as a moderator as a dependent variable. Again, not significant. Interesting here, we looked at the direct effects on dependent variables from our initiatives. And we had some slight significance here and slight growth in the R DVR squares, but really the vast majority here of what was happening to the consequences was the mediating effect of consumer gratitude. It had the bulk of the variability. So it's a very important construct. So in conclusion, differentiation in business is increasingly challenging. There's digital growth, social growth, new generations. The landscape is changing. Consumer gratitude is a powerful construct to guide business initiatives and obtain desired results. The study delivers a new standard. It's the most comprehensive consumer gratitude construct with 5 dimensions, the most complete nomological network. There's 3 categories of antecedents. There's 2 new indirect constructs, and survey results give clear distinction and answers. And there's the opportunity to delve broader into other contexts and re-examine past assumptions. There is still room to grow and learn. Questions?
Thank you, Tobin. So I will start with the questions, and then Dennis would follow, and after that, Adi would ask his questions as well. So excellent presentation. Just a few clarifying questions. So you talked about 5 different dimensions. So let's say a practitioner comes in and says, well, I can't do all 5 dimensions. I just want to choose one. Would you go with that idea, or would you recommend something else, some other idea?
Would I go with that idea? No, I'd say don't waste your time.
Okay.
I think, I mean, the 5 dimensions here add such richness and nuance that they add value. There's a reason that they're there. What we learned is, in the past, it was just about appreciation, and then we added reciprocity in there and became something which was, a feeling, and it was an action. So gratitude, why is it powerful, and why is it, out in the media so much now? It's because it's extremely powerful, because it has emotion and action. And what we added here really was other aspects of emotion to give it even more richness. So I would say I wouldn't do that if it was my business. I wouldn't take that job.
So, and you mentioned about potentially reducing the number of items to measure, right? So instead of using 25 different measures, right, across 5 different dimensions, you could potentially reduce that to like 12 or 13, something like that. So that would be an option for them, right? If they want to use that kind of a measurement.
Yes, right? that I would deeply encourage. I think trying to get it down to as few questions that get the answers is the way to go. So get some parsimony.
Wonderful. So do you envision other dimensions of consumer gratitude apart from these? Like you have 5 now. Do you think there's a 6th dimension?
Well, the 6th dimension is possible, this cognition or intent, which I had as a main effect. But I found it much more powerful as a main effect. I think you might be able to see it as a dimension, but as a main effect, it had a 0.595 beta. So I don't really see other dimensions in there based on all the literature review that I went through and such. Again, you have to balance what I would say thoroughness and parsimony together. And so I think we got to probably a happy spot. It doesn't mean, not to be humble, there may be something else out there that people can find and such. But I see this as sufficiently thorough.
Okay, all right, great, yeah, great answer. So you've been in executive leadership. So can you talk about how companies look at consumer gratitude versus consumer satisfaction, for example?
Companies aren't looking at consumer gratitude. And I think what happens is you're out in the business world, customer satisfaction has been the measure that everybody's using. And I think it gets some laziness out there that you just keep using the same thing. Yet we have academic studies that have shown that it's not so reliable and valid, and that they're not really getting great insights there. It's kind of predetermined answers that are going to come in, so they're not getting what they need. Consumer gratitude, I don't think people have thought about gratitude as much in business, and which is why it's just starting to creep in there, because gratitude's more popular in the social sciences and such. So I don't see it out there much, which is really what's the exciting part here is when we study it and we actually put some research to it, we've got some results that actually exceed what has probably been to date the gold standard measurement, which really isn't delivering. Mm-hmm. Now we have something that is. So this is really, I think, gratitude's not new, but from a consumer standpoint, the study is certainly new, and I think it's novel and exciting.
Wonderful. So, general question for you. So if you think back about your journey in this dissertation.
Yes.
Is there something that you'd like to change or do something different with your dissertation?
I think the operative word you used there was journey, and as we went along, I think it ended in a really good spot. What I liked as we went along is sometimes they can be fuzzy ideas and such. What really got me excited at the end is finding some real practical applications here and showing what could be done. And so I like to take the theory and dig into the practical part a little faster in some cases, in a way. That'd be one angle. The other angle is consumer gratitude. I at one point was thinking, how about company gratitude towards their consumers and what happens there? And so really I think his follow-up studies here is kind of this web of gratitude going back and forth. What's the power of that? If a consumer is showing gratitude to a company, that's probably more of a stretch than a company showing gratitude to a consumer. But the company showing it to a consumer could be very powerful. So I'm happy where it went. I really don't like looking backwards too much here, but I really enjoyed getting to the point where some of the practical insights are like, wow, theory, when you dig and work hard enough on a journey, can really end up making a difference.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks, Tobin. Mm-hmm. Over to Dennis now.
Hi, Tobin.
Hey, Dennis.
Great job.
I can hear you.
Okay,
you're row 3.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's really timely research. Nowadays, customer satisfaction seems so overused. And as a business, you really don't want even if you have satisfied customers, it doesn't necessarily mean that your business will succeed. Right. You really want to create like raving fans of your business.
Exactly.
And I see the consumer gratitude being that like higher standard that companies should aspire to. So it's really great research. I did have some questions about one of the constructs, the support causes. I was wondering if you could explain that one a little more.
The construct really support causes is kind of this motivation to support a cause that a company is pushing in some ways. So it could be charities that the company is supporting and advertising on. It could be events that a company sponsors and such, because those events would reflect their brand and what's important to them and such. And what I found really exciting here is, here's consumers on a pretty strong basis saying the companies that they like, if they're grateful towards that company, they're looking at what that company's doing to the outside world. They're looking at what charities are they supporting, what things are they sponsoring, and they're saying they're going to get involved with those things. So this support causes, I was pleasantly surprised at how powerful that is, but the support causes are causes that the company is in favor of and pushing. Do you support them?
Okay, good. And when in your survey, did you have the support causes after the consumer gratitude questions or before?
After.
After, okay. So I'm kind of wondering, I'd be interested to see if you were to put in there like a question, it's a little late now, obviously, but if you were to put a question in there that they would support any cause in general, if they would also, because there's this kind of this halo effect, because they've been answering all these questions about gratitude, and they're primed to, to then, and they see this other question that says like, oh, I want to support this. So I'd be like, we were talking about, I think, like what the actual business results would be. I mean, every once in a while, like you go someplace, I don't know which stores do it, but you go and you pay for something, and then they ask you, oh, by the way, do you want to round up to the nearest dollar to support this cause that we're supporting this month? Something like that, like, anyways, I'm just curious if, out of all the constructs, I'm wondering how that would work in real life. And I was wondering if you could just comment on that. Like if you think that it really could be powerful, or if there might be some.
I think the results say it can be powerful, because I think gratitude has that kind of higher order connection with a consumer. So if they're grateful, they are feeling at a much higher level than something that's transactional. It's not transactional, which obligation and different things are. I think in the example you gave, if I'm in a store and all of a sudden I'm buying something, I'm all harried and whatever, and somebody says, can you give the thing? I'm not thinking in a grateful way at that point. I'm thinking in, I'm tired, I'm moving fast. It's more about the how and feasibility. We talked earlier about the time construal study. It's something that's not properly, I guess, ingrained into the kind of what the person feels. Like gratitude, I think, is a higher order, and over time, you feel a deeper connection. It's like that fine remind and bind theory. It's just like it's something that ties that connection closer and closer. And so I think when you're talking gratitude in social causes, if you actually have the gratitude, which took time to build, it didn't happen transactionally, then I think it's more likely the social causes doesn't seem quite surprising to me. On a transactional basis, I just went in a store and bought something, and now you're asking me to support. I'm not sure that I'm going to get that excited about supporting something because I just bought a pair of socks from your store because I needed them. I don't know if I answered your question, but
yeah, fair enough. That does help answer it, and it makes me wonder if that there, especially for that cause, like the supports causes, if you have to hit a certain threshold of gratitude before they will even want to support the cause. Like I could see that threshold being, like, it would be interesting to see where these thresholds are.
It could be, and gratitude actually may be a different threshold than satisfaction, right? Already,
yes.
Like satisfaction can be this lower level thing because it's I'm satisfied. It's like the word adequate. It's adequate. I'm satisfied. Gratitude means, wow, I really care and such. So it may have already hit the threshold once you hit gratitude. And that may be why social cause works and satisfaction may not work, because it doesn't have that kind of higher order connection.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, even if you just say it, like, I'm satisfied with this product, so I'm going to support this company's philanthropic initiatives. But if I say I'm grateful to this company, so I'm going to just, it seems to make sense, right?
Yes. Satisfaction, I think the difference, satisfaction doesn't have that action component to it or the reciprocation component. Gratitude does. Yeah. So there's a different mindset, I think. But again, don't know until we do the study and we mix things up a little bit. We wouldn't know for sure. But I can guess or hypothesize more or less.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Adi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great presentation, Tobin. I have a question which I haven't properly formulated because it came to me as I was listening to you talk.
Mm-hmm.
So, these some companies have this position in their companies and they call those people chief gratitude officers. So, how would your research sort of help them? Like, Sorry if it comes off as a like a curveball, but
You're saying companies do have that, or if
they
companies?
do have them.
Okay. I think the companies that would, and so I've heard of a chief gratitude officer, usually hasn't been outward, it's been inward. And it's gratitude towards, and I don't know for sure, right? Inwards towards employees, so what's happening within the company to make sure that we're being thankful to the employees and maybe our suppliers and things like that, but maybe not so much towards consumers. I don't know. You may have a better impression.
Yeah, I think it's more towards like the philanthropy side of it.
Right.
How would they how could they use your research to?
Well, I think they'd use the research to find that we know the antecedents that can work. What are, from a chief gratitude officer, that they could use that and kind of say, okay, within social causes, let's test with our consumers these 4 social causes, and we're going to put a survey out there and do our gratitude index and see which ones rate high, and the ones that rate highest, this may be this is the one that resonates the most with our consumers. So I think what it does is it takes kind of the model and says, okay, this model works, these antecedents, preferred treatment works, the gesture assessment works, and this stakeholder works. And I think what you're able to do then is you can test the tactical support of those antecedents and such, and put those out there and say which measure is the best. So I think we already know that the model works. The question is, now that the model works, what are the actual actions or tactics that would support it?
Cool, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Another question I have is, what outlets have you thought about sending your work out to? The 2 essays.
Facebook.
No, I meant like an academic journal. Have you thought of any?
I haven't thought of the specific journal to send it to, but I'm guessing I'm going to have a few suggestions to do that.
Biology. Oh, yeah, Dennis.
Yeah. I'm not sure which exact journal, but I know it'll be a journal, of course.
Okay. Of course. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. At least we'll shoot for that.
All right, we'll open
Thanks,
it up
Andy.
to the audience if you have any questions.
Yeah, I had a couple. So my first question is, with gratitude, hey everybody, this room is great for karaoke, by the way, for those who didn't know. Mics are already hooked up.
You have to be good at karaoke, though.
So first question is about, do you think that there are certain types of brands that would find where gratitude would be easier? In other words, I'm thinking that, if there's a lifestyle brand, if there's a brand that's feeding into my hedonic needs, or a brand that's really important for me for co-creation reasons, that in those situations, the gratitude seems like it's going to be a whole lot easier for them to achieve than like Glad trash bags.
Correct. So, and this is part, when we went through kind of the surveys and had people check their 5 most recent brands that they shopped and things like that, my initial desire was to be, hey, choose your favorite brand that you love. Well, the scores would have been skyrocketing high on gratitude, because people would be picking brands, Tom shoes or something like that, where they're, free pair of shoes for everyone that you buy, et cetera. Where gratitude is almost like part of the
model.
Brand proposition.
Yeah.
I think a company like REI that's,
Patagonia,
socially aware, more for the environment, those type of companies would have an easier time. In our actual survey, what's exciting here is, we were dominated by things like Amazon and Walmart, and still got really strong gratitude scores within there and such. So, there's opportunities even for what we might call run-of-the-mill business type models, or what you may feel like more utilitarian type companies. the better companies there are actually doing things that make people more connected to them. So even those companies can be better. But I would agree that there are companies that are naturally inclined to, to have gratitude be a bigger part of their business model.
Well, and you just used the word connected. So do you see an overlap in the future with looking at gratitude somehow in relation to brand community?
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's also in a lot of the research I was doing, you've got the community boards, et cetera. Essentially, brands do have those online communities and such. And just the fact that they have them and people participate, there's gratitude shown towards the company for kind of almost arranging this group of like-minded individuals to come together in this community. So that's an online community, but I would say gratitude and community, absolutely.
Okay, interesting. Thanks.
Answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Great.
And a 1 and a 2.
Good. All right. I don't see any other questions here. So thank you so much for joining in. That concludes the dissertation defense. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.